In August 2022, 19-year-old Ankita Bhandari was given a choice: submit to her boss's depraved demand or risk everything. She chose her dignity and paid with her life. This is the story of a young woman's fight for her future, and what her murder reveals about the dark nexus of power in Uttarakhand's hills. In a small village in Pauri Garhwal, Uttarakhand, lived a 19-year-old woman named Ankita Bhandari. Like many her age, she had aspirations for the future. Her family was of humble means, and after her father lost his job as a security guard, the financial pressures became immense. Ankita had been enrolled in a hotel management course in Dehradun, which she saw as a path to self-reliance and a way to support her family. But with their finances worsening, she had to make the difficult choice to drop out. Her determination, however, did not waver. For Ankita, independence wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. In late August of 2022, an opportunity came up: a receptionist position at the Vanantra Resort in Rishikesh. The pay was 10,000 rupees a month. It was her first job, and a concrete step towards the life she wanted to build. Because the resort was in a remote area, lodging was provided on the premises, a detail that seemed like a simple convenience at the time, but would become a critical element in the events that followed. On 28 August 2022, she started her new job. She was known for her resilience and quiet strength, believing that integrity and hard work would be enough to secure her future. She had no way of knowing that behind the resort's picturesque facade lay a dangerous environment that would test her principles in the most horrifying way imaginable. The Vanantra Resort was owned by a man named Pulkit Arya. He wasn't just a business owner, he was the son of Vinod Arya, a former BJP minister, a connection that appeared to give him a sense of impunity. Working with him were two associates, Saurabh Bhaskar, the manager, and Ankit Gupta, the assistant manager. Together, this trio controlled the isolated world of the resort. As a new, young, female employee, Ankita was in an extremely vulnerable position. It didn't take long for the reality of her situation to become clear. Soon after she started, Ankita began to feel an insidious pressure that went far beyond her receptionist duties. This pressure culminated in a sickening demand. Ankita was told she needed to provide extra services to a VIP guest, for which she would be paid 10,000 rupees. Through a series of WhatsApp messages, Ankita confided in her close friend, Pushpdeep. These chats would later become a cornerstone of the investigation, a digital record of her fear and her resolve. She told her friend that her employers were trying to force her into prostitution. On the night of her death, she spoke to him, her voice trembling with fear. She felt trapped and was looking for a way out. But even facing immense pressure, Ankita's principles did not break. Her response to their demands was unequivocal. In one of her messages, she wrote a line that would become her legacy: "Being a poor woman does not mean I am willing to sell myself." It was a clear declaration of her self-worth against the men who saw her as a commodity. They seemed to believe her financial situation would make her compromise her principles. They were wrong. The accused, however, were not used to being refused. They grew fearful that Ankita, armed with her principles and her phone, would expose their illicit activities. Her integrity was a direct threat. On 17 September, the day before her murder, Ankita was moved to a different room downstairs, a seemingly minor change that, in hindsight, appeared to be part of a more sinister plan. The paradise she had hoped for had turned into a prison, and her refusal to comply had marked her as a problem that, in their minds, needed to be eliminated. The night of 18 September 2022 was the night everything came to a horrifying conclusion. Pulkit Arya, Saurabh Bhaskar, and Ankit Gupta told Ankita they needed to go out to resolve things. Their destination was the Chilla Canal, a powerful waterway near Rishikesh. Away from the resort, with no potential witnesses, the confrontation escalated. They pressured her again about providing special services. They argued, but Ankita stood her ground. Then, the situation turned violent. An altercation broke out, and Ankita was assaulted. In an act of ultimate brutality, the three men pushed the 19-year-old into the ragging waters of the canal. They made no attempt to help her or call for assistance. They watched as the current pulled her under, silencing her forever. After the murder, the trio returned to the Vanantra Resort. They calmly constructed a cover story, telling the staff that Ankita had gone to her room and should not be disturbed. They tried to manufacture an alibi, a lie to hide an unspeakable truth. They believed their influence would protect them, and that they had gotten away with murder. The next morning, 19th September, Ankita's parents tried to call her, but her phone was unreachable. Her father, Birendra Singh Bhandari, contacted the resort and was fed the same lie the accused had told the staff. But he knew something was wrong. What followed was a bureaucratic nightmare that highlighted a deep, systemic failure. Birendra Singh went to file a missing persons report, but instead of immediate action, he was met with jurisdictional confusion. He was sent between 3 different police stations, with each one claiming it was outside their area of responsibility. The concept of a zero FIR, which allows a report to be filed at any station, was ignored. Instead, he was told to go to the Revenue Police, or *Patwari* system, a colonial-era institution where revenue officials, not trained police, handle law enforcement in parts of rural Uttarakhand. The local *Patwari*, who was first informed of her disappearance, reportedly went on leave without taking any significant action, wasting critical time. It was only after local media amplified the family's plight and public outcry grew that the regular police finally took over the investigation and formed a special investigation team, SIT. The investigation quickly zeroed in on the resort and its owner. The digital evidence Ankita had left behind, her WhatsApp chats with her friend, became undeniable proof of the harassment she had faced. Faced with mounting evidence, the accused were arrested. During interrogation, they confessed, admitting they pushed Ankita into the Chilla Canal after an argument. On 24th September, 6 days after she disappeared, Ankita Bhandari's body was recovered from the canal. An autopsy later confirmed drowning as the cause of death and also revealed evidence of blunt force trauma, indicating a struggle before she entered the water. The search was over. The fight for justice was just beginning. This case is a maze of systemic failures and questions of power. If this breakdown is helping you understand the complexities, please hit that like button. It helps us bring more deep dives like this to you. The confirmation of Ankita's murder ignited a firestorm of public outrage across the nation. Spontaneous protests erupted as people took to the streets, demanding harsh justice for Ankita. The anger was amplified by the political dimension of the case. Pulkit Arya's status as the son of a BJP leader, who was quickly expelled from the party, fueled widespread suspicion of a potential cover-up. The public saw this not just as a murder, but as a grotesque example of how power could be used to exploit the vulnerable. This suspicion escalated dramatically with a highly controversial event. In the middle of the night, while the accused were in custody, bulldozers arrived at the Vanantra Resort and demolished large parts of the structure. Officials claimed this was because of illegal constructions. However, for Ankita's family and a furious public, this act was seen as a deliberate attempt to destroy crucial evidence. The room where the VIP guest was supposed to stay, a potential crime scene, was reduced to rubble. This raised a critical question that still lingers: who ordered the demolition, and why was it done with such haste? The case became a national conversation about women's safety in India. It exposed the extreme vulnerabilities of women, especially from economically weaker backgrounds, who leave home for work. Sadly, amidst the calls for justice, some resorted to victim blaming, questioning why her family had allowed her to work at a remote resort, a reflection of deep-seated patriarchal attitudes. Ankita's murder was a personal tragedy, but it had also become a mirror reflecting a much larger societal sickness. The path to justice was arduous. The Special Investigation Team compiled a 500-page charge sheet against Pulkit Arya, Saurabh Bhaskar, and Ankit Gupta. The primary charges included murder, criminal conspiracy, and destruction of evidence. The trial began in early 2023. The prosecution built its case on a mountain of evidence, including the testimony of 47 witnesses. But the most powerful voice in the courtroom was Ankita's, speaking through her WhatsApp messages. Her words became irrefutable proof of the motive behind her murder. The defense attempted to challenge the prosecution's narrative, but the evidence was overwhelming. Finally, on 30th May 2025, after a trial that spanned over 2 years, the court in Kotdwar delivered its verdict. The judge found all three accused, Pulkit Arya, Saurabh Bhaskar, and Ankit Gupta, guilty on all major counts. They were sentenced to life imprisonment. For many, justice had been served. The legal system, despite its initial failures, had held the powerful accountable. For Ankita's family, however, the verdict brought only partial closure. Her father, who had fought tirelessly, stated that while he respected the court's decision, he believed the crime warranted the death penalty. His cry for death echoed the sentiments of many who felt a life sentence was insufficient for such a brutal crime. His conviction of Ankita Bhandari's murderers is a monument to several systemic failures, a dysfunctional revenue police system, a toxic nexus of power and criminality, and the vulnerabilities that working women face. Her case laid bare how a simple no can carry a fatal price. But Ankita Bhandari should not be remembered only as a victim. She must be remembered for her courage. In her final hours, she chose her dignity over her safety. Her words, "Being a poor woman does not mean I am willing to sell myself," stand as a powerful testament to her character. Her life was cut short, but her struggle forced a national conversation. It intensified calls for the reform of the archaic Patwari system and amplified the demand for stricter workplace safety regulations. Her legacy is one of strength in the face of exploitation, a legacy that continues to fuel the fight for a safer, more just world for all women. More than 2 years later, there are convictions, but the questions about power, protection, and the value of a woman's life remain. What are your thoughts on this case and the larger issues it represents? Share your perspective in the comments below. And if you want to see more investigations into complex cases like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive.